Hello, this is Mr. Blake and my series of videos to help you go through retesting on the physical world test that you are going to be taking in Panther Den. I'm making these videos to help you go through this in the event that you miss a Panther Den, you aren't able to get into the Zoom. Maybe you just want to listen to it one more time, use it for review, whatever you want to use it for, it's here for you. This particular segment is going to be for those that need to retake the tectonic plates section of the test. So if your instructor has told you that you are going to need to retest for that, this is what this video is for, specifically for tectonic plate activity. And the big thing to remember in plate tectonics is what kind of fault line are you looking at and what does it do? What does it produce? So let's go through each one of them. You probably can play with your hands on this one. It kind of helps you visualize what's going on. So here I am. Here's my hands. And so if I have a plate that is pulling apart like this, and so this part's going this way, this part's going this way, what's going to happen is in the center where these two pulled apart, you're going to have magma uplifting and it's going to come to the surface and it's going to spew out as lava, more likely, and that's creating new crust. And so if the two pieces are pulling apart like that and creating a rift valley or new plate, you are looking at a divergent plate. Divergent means they're coming apart, okay? So that's divergent, and it tends to create new plate is what we're looking at. The lava is going to harden and create new rocky crust. Sometimes you can get ribbon volcanoes. Are really cool. They don't look like the mountain triangle looking volcanoes. There's just a big long tear in the earth with lava spitting out all over the place. It's quite cool, and you get that in rift valleys, either undersea or sometimes on the surface in places like Africa and Iceland. The next one that we'll look at is convergent plates, and the opposite of divergent. These are coming together and they're pushing up against each other, and plates can only do one of two things really in this situation. They can either kind of crumple up against each other like this, in which case they're creating a mountain range because all that uplift of rock is going to create mountains. It is possible that you'll have one that gets on top of the other one like this, and so they're moving towards each other this way, and this top part is going to produce mountains. This part down here is going to melt in the mantle of the earth. That's going to create new magma, and that new magma tends to seep up through the cracks of this top plate and often produces volcanoes. So that's one of the features that you might see with that particular type of convergent plate. This area down below where all that new lava is made is known as the subduction zone. And so anytime you have a subduction zone, you're going to get a couple of things. Lots of earthquakes and probably a lot of volcanoes as well as mountain producing. It's going to make mountains. The other one that you might see is a transform fault, and that is when the two are rubbing up against each other. They're moving past each other. It's not one's not moving away, and they're not trying to pile on top of each other. They're just sliding by each other. Unfortunately, nature doesn't tend to make our faults in straight lines. They're jagged, and so they get caught up on each other, and the more energy that they expend trying to move past each other eventually lets go. And that's how you get earthquakes. So with transverse or transform fault lines, you get a whole lot of earthquakes. So that's one of the traits that you'll be looking for if you're looking at that kind of a fault line. So review a little bit here. If it is divergent, it's going to produce new plate. It's going to produce a rift valley in between the two. And this is often where you get ribbon volcanoes. If they're moving towards each other, it's convergent, and that generally produces mountain ranges one way or another. Could also produce a lot of volcanoes as well as earthquakes. That third one, transform, they're rubbing up against each other, and that produces a lot of earthquakes. So think about different parts of the world where you know that they have a lot of earthquakes. Places like Japan, for instance, or California. Alaska has a lot of earthquakes. All of these places also have volcanoes, and that should be telling you something. If you look at where California is, and Alaska, and Japan, the Philippines, Indonesia, all of these places ring the Pacific Ocean. And what's happening there is you have the Pacific Plate, big giant oceanic plate, and it's got a whole bunch of other plates that are bumping into it, and they're either running into it or they're sliding along the side of it. And this area produces most of the world's earthquakes and volcanoes. On average, there's something like 10 volcanoes going off any time in this area. This whole region, that whole region that kind of encircles the Pacific Ocean, is known as the Ring of Fire, and it gets its name because of all the lava spewing out of those volcanoes. But it's also very well known for earthquakes. A lot of earthquakes take place through this area, as well as tsunami, because we have undersea earthquakes as well. So this whole area is very, very, very tectonically active. And so I would want to know what it is and what's it called. The Ring of Fire, and it is all those plates colliding into the Pacific Plate. So think about where California is. It's known for its earthquakes. Northern California is known for its volcanoes. Oregon and Washington have volcanoes. So anywhere that's on the edge of that Pacific Plate is going to be part of the Ring of Fire. I hope that this helps. I hope that it'll help you remember this stuff when you retake the test. And this is all for you, and I wish you good luck on the retest.